There it is. Little tomato right at the very end.
The risotto is presented in a small saucepan. Shaved Parmesan cheese.
A little bit of extra virgin olive oil.
The Brown Hotel in Louisville has a long history as the unofficial Derby headquarters. It is the official headquarters for Joe Castro, chef at the English Grill. With him, it's a family affair. His wife is a pastry chef, and his brother and brother-in-law are chefs. He now prepares roasted lamb loin.
Okay, there's 2 steps for our recipe, making the grits and the lamb. First, we're going to do the grits. Need to start with some brown butter. By browning the butter, it's going to give us that nutty character, also a homey essence to it all. We'll add our shallots. We'll caramelize these. Okay, now that they're nutty and brown, we can go ahead and add our country ham. There's only one country ham from Kentucky. Saute that. We'll add our peppers. Hominy, which is really indigenous to around Indiana and Kentucky. We'll saute these to allow the flavors to blend one to another. Then we'll deglaze with some chicken stock. Okay, we've come to a boil. Now we'll turn it down to a simmer. And we're going to slowly add our grits. Grits is a 2-to-1 ratio, very similar to rice. Okay, we're going to continue to stir these until they become nice and creamy. While that's cooking, we'll go ahead and chop our thyme. Again, we're using the herb at the very, very end because it does have that life force. Okay, wait till your grits are getting close. It's like polenta or making choux. They'll start pulling away from the edge. Once we've reached that point, we'll go ahead and add our thyme to let it bloom. Some fresh green onions. And we'll finish it with a little whole butter. Just stir that in.
Meanwhile, the lamb loin is seasoned before being seared in a hot pan.
like to sear it in olive oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Lay the lamb away from you. You can see we're using the loin. By using the loin, we'll be able to cook it completely to your desired temp in the actual pan itself. So we'll turn it. What we're trying to do is give the meats a nice caramelization, give it a little sweetness.
The lamb is cooked entirely on top of the stove until medium rare.
We remove our lamb, let it rest. We're going to go ahead and cook our sugar snap peas, 50%, and our baby corn. Real quick. Set them with the lamb. At this point, if there's any caramelization left in the pan, once we brought it off with the peas and the corn, we're going to deglaze it with some lamb stock. We're going to let this simmer down until it coats the spoon. Okay. Now that this coats the spoon, we'll return our peas and corn to the jus. Add our tomatoes. And finish the sauce with some whole butter. Okay, to dress up our grits a little bit, we're going to quinoa them into the center of the plate. Our sauce is going to act as an active garnish, really. Again, we don't like to torture the food too much. We're going to put that right in the center. Again, the sauce belongs on top of the meat. Just garnish with a little sauce around the rim of the plate.
When Doyle DeForest grew up in northern Louisiana, his grandfather owned a bakery, so it was not surprising that he drifted into a culinary career, specifically pastry. Early on, he worked under Kevin Graham and Shane Gorange at the Stella Windsor Court Hotel. Here is his strawberry Bavarian Jacquard.
Start off by mixing my eggs, combining all together, almond flour, and sugar. Mix it on medium-high for about 5 minutes or until it's light, fluffy, and light in color.
Beaten egg whites are folded in.
And gently fold in the meringue. into your almond flour, sugar, and egg mix. You want to add your butter next. Fold in your butter. And then you want to incorporate your flour.
After the batter is incorporated, a small amount is reserved and cocoa powder is added.
Okay. Roughly 1 ounce of your mix, you want to add about a 1/4 cup of cocoa. Combine the two together. You create a paste.
The paste is piped onto a silicone pad.
Then you want to create your own design by just freestyle over the sill pad.
This goes into the freezer to set up.
Now we're going to take the mix and spread the mix over the top, the plain mix that was left over, the reserve. Thin layer, straight over the top.
Bake at 375 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes. Now the chef starts the strawberry Bavarian by whipping 2 egg yolks and 2 ounces of sugar.
Until light in color and a ribbon consistency.
Then hot milk containing a scraped vanilla bean is tempered into the mixture.
You want to slowly start adding your milk to your yolk mix. Once your mixture is incorporated together, you pour it back into the pot. Return it to the stove until thick, about 5 minutes at a medium to low heat.
After the mixture has thickened, it's strained over an ice bath, cooled slightly, then gelatin leaves are added.
You want to cool it down, but not too much, because you are going to add your gelatin. Gelatin has been soaked in cold water. Then you slowly dissolve the gelatin into the mix.
After the gelatin is thoroughly combined, set aside and let the mixture come to room temperature. In the final product, strawberry jam is used not only as flavoring, but color as well.
Okay, once you see your gelatin is starting to set, then you want to take your jam and incorporate your jam into your mix. Then you want to take your cream and then fold it into the Bavarian cream.
Meanwhile, the sponge cake goes into a mold.
I've cut some strips out. The strip will go around like so. Then I'll take my pastry bag. Basically what you want to do is you want to take this, put a small amount of cream, some fresh sliced strawberries, more cream, layer it, strawberries, Finish it off with cream.
A cake disc is put on top and it is refrigerated. The dessert is presented with chocolate-coated acetate leaves.
Then you want to take your dessert and place it right in the middle. Okay, then what you want to do is you want to peel off all the acetate.
Sliced strawberries garnish.
Garnish it with a nice sprig of mint.
Ciao, I am Nick Stellino. I am looking through my recipe box for what to make for you. Oh, I like this. I like this. I haven't made it in a while. This is simple, right to the point, traditional, full of flavor. That's what I'll do. I will make you chicken provolone and serve it with a light salad with shallots, arugula, and spinach. Please, join me in the kitchen. Spicy just right. Here I am at my favorite cheese shop, and I'm looking for the perfect piece of provolone. Sherry, how you doing?
Hey,
Sherry
Nick.
Levine.
How are you?
She is my great cheese friend. She always puts me in the right direction. You have some provolone I'm looking for. I don't
I
see
do.
any.
I have some great provolone today.
Oh, fantastic. A lot of people ask me, Nick, what is provolone? Provolone is part of the Italian tradition of cheese that's made through the process of paste filate, pull paste. Provolone is almost in a certain way, in the way of making it similar to mozzarella. But unlike mozzarella, provolone can be aged. But often people say, Nick, what is pasta filata? Now, I could give you my explanation, but it's not as good as hers. Why don't you tell us what is the process of pasta filata, or the pulled paste as it's known in English?
So pasta filata is the process of pulling the curd and the whey at the same time to incorporate them, which results in a very moist, rich cheese.
Now, the stagionatura in Italian means the seasoning, but not so much the seasoning, the aging of the provolone has a significant factor in the way the provolone tastes. What I have here before me, and I can see it just by touching it and also by the fact that I'm already smelling the aroma. This is provolone piccante. There are two types of provolone. Dolce, which is fairly young, I think about 3 months is the most that you can go. And both of them actually, when they're pulled in the paste, they're shaped like pears, right?
Yes.
And they're hang from the ceilings and they're let to age for a certain time. And you see them in Italian delis sometimes, especially out there on the East Coast. Now, the stagionato, the provolone piccante, is the one that I love the most. Now, I'm going to take a bite of this, but why don't you describe to us what you think is the flavor profile of this cheese?
Well, the provolone piccante is aged for about a year, and as it ages, it loses a little bit of moisture and gains a very intense, sharp, nutty flavor.
It truly has. Piquante, I would like to say.
Yes.
This is something that can actually stand very well when taken with wine. This is an ideal. By the way, I'm very proud of this cheese because it's a Southern Italian cheese.
Yes.
It's our tradition. As Sicilians, we think that we make the best. Now, you talk to someone else, you get a different answer, but this is my show. This is the answer you get. Why do I like it? I like it because it has a flavor profile that whatever you add it to, it just pops it to the next level. You can bake with it. You can make cheese sandwiches with it. I have a lot of ideas, as a matter of fact. Listen, why don't you wrap me a piece? I want to take it home with me, okay?
You got it.
And using my favorite potato peeler, here is the last shaving of provolone. Provolone is my favorite cheese. I love it. There's a reason why I'm actually shaving it exactly like this, because later when I broil the whole dish together, this is going to make a wonderful cover for the chicken provolone. Why chicken provolone? Everybody makes chicken parmesan. I said, why not making a chicken recipe that features my favorite cheese? Provolone. Provolone, that's how we say in Italy. I want to share with you another secret. I am going to flavor this sauce, this basic tomato sauce, with a couple of extra ingredients, which are going to give it a nice, wonderful, elongated personality. But in order to do that, because of the fact that I'm going to be simmering for a while, if I was not to do what I'm about to do now, and that is the addition of a little bit of chicken stock, when the sauce reduces, it might reduce too much, almost to a paste-like consistency. So we put it into the blender, and the other reason why I do it is because you will see why. It just makes it so wonderful. Ah, look at that. Now, one of the things that you might have noticed is that the sauce changed color, went from a deep red to an orange. There's nothing to be worried about. It's the oxygen that got pumped into the mixture of tomato sauce and chicken stock. And pretty soon, as we start cooking it, that color will go back to red once again. In this pan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. And then we're going to mix this with a couple of wonderful ingredients. First and foremost, my favorite, and you know that this is the truth, this is garlic. Garlic that we have cut fairly thick. We're going to add the garlic to it just like this. A little bit of red pepper flakes. Now remember, these guys pack quite a bit of heat, so be careful on how you do it. My wife is not looking, so I have permission right now to actually crank it up a little bit. And then finely chopped onions. Why do we use finely chopped onions instead of the rough ones? One of the things that I wanted to do in this recipe really was to kind of give it the feeling of an elegant finish to it. You can already smell the aroma coming out of this. As you notice, I've added no salt and no pepper because the tomato sauce and the chicken stock already have a lot of flavor. When we're making this particular sauce, one of the things that you want to make sure is that you wait until the end before you put your seasoning, because as the sauce reduces, using the sodium that already has into it, if it reduces, you put on top of it additional salt, you might make it too salty. But that's about it. A little thing that I like to do, and this is almost paesana. Paesana, by the way, translated from Italian, means country style. We add a little few pieces of basil because it's going to give its aroma. Going to reduce the heat a little bit. We're going to let this cook for just a moment or two. Now, once you get to the consistency that we want, the next thing that we want to do is we're going to add the tomato sauce. This is something that you're going to love. If you put a spoon underneath, exactly like this, it will not splash back as you do that. You may ask yourself, how do I know that? You see the shirt that I'm wearing? I have a bet with my wife that I'll be able to actually finish this whole segment without wearing any tomato sauce on it. And I'm using every little trick that I know. We'll put this back up in here. I'm going to put back up the top just in case something should happen. Let's move on to the chicken. The chicken that we are going to use, the portion of the chicken, is breast. First and foremost, we have to pound the breast. So here we have the breast between two little sheets of plastic. It's very important because as we go at it, we want to make sure that as the chicken breast expands, it does not slip out. They are slippery little suckers, these guys. Now, this is a tool that you already know. This is a tenderizer. Let me show you something about this tenderizer because it could be a weapon. You do not want to use this side. You see how big and thick the spikes are? If we were to use this, you would completely shred the chicken. There's a smaller one on the side, also a version of a tenderizer that you do not want to use. This is for tough cuts of meats that you want to pound down. The chicken breast does not need that. So this is the surface that you want to use right here, nice and flat. Now watch the technique that I'm using because this is very important. Never be angry when you do this. You do not want to have things just like this that could actually spin you out of control. So you go like this. Once you pound it, off you go. There you go. Keep your fingers away. It's just a chicken. And notice how wide this particular piece of chicken is getting. And when you cook for a large number of people, have all the pieces already individually wrapped like this is going to make it very easy for you. Now, let me move this aside. We have a piece right here that we finished, and it's the perfect. But now we have to bread it. Let me show you how to do that because this is a small technique. It's not all that difficult, but I want to show you exactly how to do it. We have two large containers in here. One is filled with breadcrumbs. These breadcrumbs are basically the ones that you can make at home. Just use some old bread, add some cheese, some dry herbs, mix it together into the food processor or the blender, and you'll get fantastic. Even store-bought I use excellent. 2 eggs into this bowl. We're going to add a little bit of cream and a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of salt. Generous with the salt because it's going to give flavor to the chicken. Mix it real well, just like this. Now, once you get to this point, this is what you want to do. You want to add this in here. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to take the chicken and we're going to place the chicken in there. This is where a lot of people get concerned as to what's going to happen. So here we go with the chicken. Two tools that I'm going to use. One is this. You want to make sure that the chicken bathes on both sides, exactly like this. And now watch what we do. We take it from here, let it drip all the extra eggs, put it in here. And that's the technique that I like to do. Using the fork, I put the breadcrumbs right on top of it. As I do this, the next thing that you want to do is push down with the fork, kind of almost giving it a pattern to it. As you do this, you will notice that the chicken breast itself is actually expanding. You do this on the other side, you lift it, you bring it out, and you're doing this almost without using your hands, but it gives you greater control. There's still an enormous amount of moisture into the chicken breast itself. I'm going to let this rest here for a moment, and I'm going to move the sauce on this side because it's simmering nicely, and that's exactly where you want to get it. And I'm going to increase the heat here on this pan to make sure that it gets for us at the temperature that we want. One piece of information that's very important. In this pan, we're going to fry the chicken. We did not use extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil would burn when used on very high temperature. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to use extra light olive oil. And that will give us the temperature that we like. It's my favorite one. It has a wonderful aroma and it has a very high smoking point, allowing us to have very high temperature without worrying about that. We're almost ready with this. We're going to wait until it's nice and hot, and we're just about there. Oh, yes, we are. And here we go with the chicken now. As you can see already, it's starting to cook. We'll take about 2 minutes per side for the chicken to get the proper browning. Meanwhile, I'm going to help myself here in assembling my flow, something that will help us a great deal. This is also called cotoletta alla milanese. Every time there is a breading of the sort, the word that we use is milanese, from the city of Milan. You'll say, what difference does it make? Well, let me tell you. In spite of the fact that Italy is a single country, each one of the states of Italy, Sicily, Lazio, Venezia, they used to be independent countries of their own, and we all have our own language and we all have our own customs when it comes to preparing those dishes. This is one of the dishes that really is closely connected to what happens up north. You see how beautiful it is already? You just want to cook it a little while until it picks up the color. Once it does pick up the color, that's when you want to take it out. Notice that there is no tomato sauce in this, nor will be any tomato sauce until later when we finish up the plating. Now, I have with me, waiting for me, a plate with a paper towel on top of it because I wanted to absorb the additional oil that might have left. And you also notice that I did not put too much oil because I did not want this to be too greasy. That's one of the things that I like. I like for everything to be nice, clean, and have a wonderful finish to it. Let me turn this off so we don't get it going too far. The next thing that we're going to do we need to use a pan that we can actually put into the broiler. So I want something with a metal handle, possibly something that is also non-stick, that will prevent the chicken from sticking to the bottom of it. The last thing that I'm going to do for you, I'm going to show you how to assemble it, and then I'll take you all the way into the plating itself. This you're going to love. First, we don't need to worry about putting anything underneath because the only thing that we want to do at this point is to build up the flavoring that we'll have on top of this. The flavoring primarily is going to be given in two ways. First way is a nice bit of moisture that is the tomato sauce. And what I do is I just put a slight film of it, just like this, lightly on top of it. You don't want to be excessive because you're going to put this under the broiler. And if you put too much of this, it will be very, very goopy. That you want to avoid. Just think about something that you want to have flowing with elegance, fun, something that almost sings when you bring it to the table. And also at the same time, it gives you this distinguished look of a refined Sicilian gentleman. I know, I made that up as I went along, but it suited me just fine. These are the pieces of provolone that we have shaved before ahead of time. This is what, once we put under the broiler, it will start to bubble, be nice and brown. It will give us the wonderful cheese crust that we love about this particular dish, and that elegant, refined taste, without making it too heavy, without making it unpleasant. So there it is. I'm going to put this under the broiler that I have preheated, and then I'm going to show you exactly how to plate it. And here we are. Isn't this absolutely beautiful? You see, what I love about this is the way the cheese is melted on top of it. This little bit of burn that you have over there, it brings out this flavor that the provolone has. It is wonderful because when you cut through the chicken, the breading that we put on top of it, full of flavor, has all these layers of flavor. Then there is the cheese, there is the tomato sauce underneath, just a tiny little layers. It's almost like a birthday cake. Imagine that, with so many different things to it. And it's tender. This is what I love about it. It's tender. It's very quick to make and it's very tender. Now, let's assemble it. Let's put it together. First thing I want to make sure is that the sauce has the spicy just right. Oh, I love this. Okay, the way we build it, first and foremost, is to put the sauce at the bottom. What I love to do is make a nice dressing with the sauce, exactly like this. The pieces of garlic, the onion that we have. Look how smooth the sauce is. The process that I showed you before, when we process it together into the blender, they gave us the consistency that I absolutely adore. Oh, mamma mia. It's like the Italian flag. By the time I'm done, you'll understand exactly what I mean. These pieces of garlic that you see there, they are so tender. They are braised perfectly throughout the whole process. They're going to bring out a flavor that you won't believe. Now, I'm going to use my spatula and my spoon to do it just right. And here we are. We assemble it just like this. And watch this, the little touch that I do, a little bit of arugula right on top of it, where I dressed it just with a little bit of salt, pepper, and extra virgin olive oil. Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. And there it is, chicken provolone. I wanted to discover something new about rucola, and I decided to get connected with one of the experts. Ray, how you doing?
Good
nice
morning.
to see you. Always a pleasure. I want to share with the viewers something unique about rucola. Why don't you tell me, what are these two different types of rucola that you're growing?
This is a arugula roquette. It's a
Roquette, like a rocket.
like a rocket.
Yeah.
It's a baby variety. We eat it original. This is arugula selvatica, which is a wild variety.
Selvatica. This I had done before. This is very spicy, very peppery.
Very spicy, very peppery. This is too, but it's softer pepper.
Now, you have a 10 by 4 bed in here. I see that you got several others. How difficult is it to actually manage it?
It's very easy.
Very easy.
Yes,
You
sir.
let that go to flower, I see.
Yes, I let this go to flower. This just seeds itself across the garden and comes up wild. It's
And
wild.
this one instead, the
This
roquette?
one I sow seed.
One of the things I want to share with you is that if you have the opportunity, if you have the right site and the exposure to the sun, you should start some of this gardening. This is very easy to grow. It tastes fantastic. And in no time at all, you can develop the passion that this man has. Thank you so much. I'm
you're
taking
welcome.
some of this home, you know. I want some of that. I want some of that. I am super excited to show you the salad. You know, salad, most times, it's just boring. But you know what? If you just do a couple of things right, if you put together a couple of simple techniques, you will be surprised how great a salad can be. Come on, I want to show you this. These are chopped shallots. What I've done, I chopped them very fine, and then I kind of put them in a little bit of vinegar, white vinegar, as you can see. You let them rest for at least 45 minutes. What this will do will smooth over the flavor of the shallots, and at the same time, it will impart to the vinegar the taste of the shallot. Here, what we've done now, we drain the shallots. Here, they're nice and drained. There will be wonderful pop of flavor inside the salad, and we're reusing the vinegar for making the dressing. I'll show you in a moment how to use that, but remember, this is a very important step for as simple as it is. The next thing I want to show you is actually how to cut and how to use the technique that I want to make in this particular case with the red pepper. This cut I'm about to show you has a French name. It's called brunoise. In Italian, we call it I pezzettini piccolini. We're not as descriptive, but I think we're funnier. Now, here we go. Cut it on one side, turn it over, cut it on the other side. Get rid of this, put it away. Now, you see what we have alternative for you. You have the inside that's white. How do we get rid of that? Watch this. I stand it up just exactly like this. I cut all the way through. Then using my knife, I go at it very carefully to take care of all the ribs. Now, never been a rush with this, especially with a sharp knife like this, but you will be amazed on how we perfectly clean this out. And look at this. This, which is the leftover that I have in my hand, is completely gone. Now, we'll put this aside. I'm going to cut this in this piece, and I'm going to show you with this. Watch. Now, this is a very sharp knife. What you want to avoid is for this knife not to do its job. So what I do, I use the point, and you see how slowly I go right through it. It gives me great control on this width and the thickness of the pieces that I want to make. Very carefully. Now, as you get better and better with this technique, you move faster and faster. But I want you to see what this is. I'll move this aside for a moment. Now, we have all the sticks ready to go, pezzettini. Now, let's turn them into brunoise. I love to say the word. Guarda. Piano, piano, piano. Always keep your knuckles behind it. But you can see what I mean. You see how small these pieces are. And why is it so important that we cut them so small? To tell you the truth, it doesn't make a great deal of difference, but it looks so much more beautiful when we assemble the salad. Let's make the dressing now, because this is the part that I love the most. The dressing, what I like to do is to actually put some of the ingredients in it already. So we go with a little bit of the peppers. We've got a few more in here. To this, I add some of the yellow peppers. And as you can see, cut just as fine. And then I go with the ingredients. We add, first and foremost, a little bit of paprika. Together with the paprika, we do some onion powder. Together with the onion powder, we add some garlic powder. The next thing that I do, and this is very important because we want to have something that counterbalances the acidity of the vinegar, and that is to use sugar. Put the sugar in there. Now, here is the vinegar that I used before. We'll put a little bit of the vinegar in here. And it's white vinegar. Even white balsamic will do, but white vinegar, any kind, the one that you love, would be fabulous. And here are the shallots that we held back. So I'm going to put the shallots in there as well. And then I'll use some more to decorate it. Remember, the shallots are imbued with the vinegar. So when you bite into it, there's this wonderful completion of all these flavors that slowly start to assault your tongue. At first, it seems to be like a frontal attack. And then before you know, you find yourself dancing into this wonderful music of ingredients that's coming together into one of your favorite culinary concerts. Wow, that was a mouthful. And remember, I'm the first one who said that. Now, let's snap into action and let's put this one together. Extra virgin olive oil. Always choose the best possible quality that you can. We add it in a stream, and what you want to do is to mix all the ingredients together until you get the nice emulsified finish that you would want to have. And here you are. Guarda che bellezza, veramente una di queste cose che a me piace. Sto parlando in italiano, I'm starting to speak Italian. When I get excited, it always happens that way. Now, let's move this aside for a moment, because what I want to do right now is to actually assemble the salad. Let me show you what I have. Right here, we have two types of arugula. We have baby arugula and we have wild-filled arugula. So I grab a little bit of this, I grab a little bit of this. We already have these washed, dried real nice. On top of this, in addition, what I want to also do is to put some baby spinach in there. So a few leaves of baby spinach. More often than not, people like to use instruments to assemble the salad. Something like, for example, this tong, or I'm telling you, when it comes to putting together a salad, the most important thing is your hand. And that's exactly what we'll use. So here we go. We have here the dressing, which, oh, I love just the aroma of it. A little bit of this, just slightly. You want to just simply anoint it. It's almost a religious ceremony, in my opinion. A little bit of salt and pepper on top of the greens just to get them going, and the pepper. I love it because it adds a little bit of flavor to it. And then using your hand, you mix everything together. And as you move everything together, what you want to do is to make sure that the salad is covered but not completely bathed in it. And it could take a little bit more salad because we put enough on it in there. Oh, guarda che bellezza. Guarda che bellezza, ma così si fa, eh? Poi prendiamo il piatto, we take a little plate, and we start assembling the salad right on top of it, just exactly like this. And at this point is what I want you to see, something that I call layers. I'm of the opinion that when you start eating a salad, some of the things that you want to have is little layers of flavors that you pick up with every bite. So we do it first with a little bit of the red peppers, then we put a little bit more salad on top, some more of the shallots that we had marinated before, a little bit more salad on top again, there you are, and then finally, mamma mia che pezzo, look at the piece. You know, by the time you end up watching the show, you will be able to speak Italian almost perfectly. Lastly, one more decoration with the dressing on the side, just to make it a little bit more elegant. Just a touch of Parmesan cheese, and believe it or not, we just made shallots, arugula, and spinach salad. And here it is. it is an absolute pleasure to have you spend so much time with us. And what a wonderful bit of cooking we did today. Chicken provolone and then salad with shallots, arugula, and spinach. Oh, I hope that you will use these dishes to turn your home into your favorite restaurant. Until next time, ciao. When you want to know about tomatoes, you got to talk to the expert. And I got my expert right here. Ray, how are you? Such a pleasure to see you. Thank you again. Why don't you tell us about these tomatoes?
These tomatoes are San Marzanos. They come from the Vesuvian Plain in Italy.
Exactly.
And they make a great paste tomato.
Stop for a second. I want to tell you this. Why is that these tomatoes make the best sauce tomatoes?
Because they have very few seeds.
That proves the point. You see, you don't get this told a whole lot. Tomatoes, different kind of tomatoes have different purposes for making sandwiches, for making soup, for making sauces. These tomatoes, the San Marzano tomatoes, are gold. As a matter of fact, they make the best sauces ever. Now, Ray, most people will get afraid, but is this something very difficult to grow in your garden?
No, it's not. The only issue it really has is it takes a little long to mature, and we crush the season here.
Well, one of the things that you have to realize is that you've done all this by yourself, right?
Yes.
And look, as you can see behind us, this beautiful towers of tomatoes. I'm gonna grab a few of those. I'm gonna bring it back to my own kitchen. And Ray, one of the things that I'm very concerned about you is that you're a little bit too thin. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a beautiful sauce. I'm gonna put it over rigatoni. You come to my house for dinner tonight. Is that a deal?
Yeah, it's a deal.
I'm taking 2 bushel of tomatoes. It's a deal, right?
It's a deal.
Okay, we done it. Ciao, I am Nick Stellino. I am looking at my recipe box here, trying to wonder what to make for you guys, and something special, something unique. Oh, yes, I love this. You know, this is what we're gonna make today. A pork chop with apple and whiskey sauce, followed by an old family favorite, an upside down pineapple cake. Please, join me in the kitchen. Spicy just right. My butcher is fantastic. As a matter of fact, he looks like a movie star. Hey, Russell, how are you doing?
Good.
Nice to
Nice
see
to
you.
meet you.
I love this guy. I love this guy because he does everything, especially when it comes to pork. One of the things I did not expect from an American boy is that he could actually make pancetta. You have 2 types of pancetta here, don't you?
We do.
Now, why don't you tell everybody, how did the idea come to you to make pancetta? This is such an Italian thing, so foreign to Americans in general.
Well, we get whole animals and they have these beautiful bellies on them. And I wanted to figure it out because I love it. And so we just tried it.
I want to tell you something about the American spirit of independence. Now, did you have an Italian mentor? You made research on your own and you just went for it?
Yeah, just read. I've never even been to Italy.
Well, tell us about this pancetta. Questa è we call it rotonda. So this is rotonda, this is tesa. Just so that you know the difference between the name rotonda, which means round, and tesa or arrollata, and tesa, which means flat. What is the difference between the way in which you handle these two?
There's not a whole lot of difference. They're both salt cured and we season them up. This one has fennel and bay on it. 2 of my favorite spices, hands down. And then the tessa we cure with a little bit of cumin and coriander and just a touch of red wine.
Time-wise, just so that everybody kind of gets comfortable with this, what is the curing time that you use to ultimately bring them to the finished product before you sell them to the public?
Total time, probably about 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
When you actually cure them like this, there's always a little bit of weight loss that's involved in that, isn't
Definitely. It's all water that's being lost.
there? Would you say about a third?
Yes, definitely.
About
Third
a
is
third
about
of
what
it.
you're looking for.
You actually choose these pork chops and you have a personal interaction with the farmers who
Yeah,
grow this
definitely.
thing.
It's a big part of my business here is, knowing the farmers, knowing where the meat came from. These pork chops, they're grown right here locally. The farmers plant kale and turnips, so the pigs have stuff to eat through the winter time. And then some other farmers raise their pigs, finish their pigs on hazelnuts, on
Now-
the shells.
I want you to think about this. I want you to think about the fact, when is the last time that you heard that your butcher actually goes, he sits down with the farmers and says, what are you feeding your pig? I didn't even know about the fact that pigs had this type of things as a diet. But seriously speaking, now as a consumer, because I'm asking you something I don't know, Can you actually taste the difference that is brought in by what these pigs are fed on? I mean, you have a certain nuances that you taste in the meat?
You don't actually taste like kale and turnip or hazelnut, but it has more to do with the fat and the actual taste of a natural tasting pig, natural tasting pork chop.
It is the marbling that makes all the
Yeah.
difference in it.
Look at these, they're beautiful. It's really like fine intermuscular marbling, but that's what's going to keep it.
I'm not taking a bite because it's not a good manners, but do me a favor. Take these, wrap them up, and I'm going to take them all. One of the great things that really makes an experience in the kitchen is the understanding of the greatness of the ingredients. And if I can say anything, make sure that you build a relationship with your butcher because they will guide you along the best of what they have. Okay, I'm ready. Just got back from the butcher and look at these fabulous pork chops. Aren't they gorgeous? But first, I want to show you how to make the apple and whiskey sauce. It's a very simple sauce. It's very elegant, and you can use it not only just for the pork. You can do this with veal. You could do this with chicken. You're going to love this. In the pan, we already added some extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to crank up the heat here a little bit, and we're going to add the ingredients in the sequence in which they're supposed to go. A little bit of chopped carrots in there. Together with the carrots, we put a little bit of onions. And together with the onions, we put a little bit of celery. I'm going to let this go for a short while longer. This in Italian is called il triumvirato. When you add it, you do not want to have the oil so hot that it's going to make the water that's still contained by these ingredients explode outward. It's one of the things where you want to walk. And watch what I'm saying, because as the oil gets nice and hot, you see already the sizzling that takes place. What I'm using in this case is a spatula that can actually take the seat. It's a fabulous tool, one of the things that you should have in your kitchen. As this is taking place, then we start building on the sauce. Imagine that the sauce is like making a little model, and you add a piece at a time, and each piece has a reason for being there. So as these are starting to saute, the next thing that we're going to do is to add some rosemary. And the rosemary, I have a lot in my garden, and that's where I got my idea at home. Why don't I do that? And then I said, what would look good and taste good with rosemary? So I put the basil. People say, why putting the basil so early? What we want to do at this point, the reason why we're using the fresh herbs earlier on in the process, is we want to make sure that the oil contained to the fresh herbs starts to lose itself into the base, which is all these aromatics, and it's going to open up. It's like a flower that blossoms out. Now you can hear the sizzling taking place, all the ingredients. I'm so sorry that you cannot smell the aroma because this is spectacular. Another bit of very important information that I want to give you is here now when we start to build the character of what we want. If you do this with chicken, use chicken meat. If you do this with veal, use veal meat. So these are the trimmings for the pork chop that we cut earlier that we're going to add to give us some flavor. Together with this, the next thing that we want to do is to add the apple pieces. Now the apple pieces, we have peeled the apple, we have cored the apple, and then we cut it in pieces. If you do this ahead of time to make sure that the pieces do not become too dark, make sure that you store the pieces of apple into a combination of water and lemon juice. All that will do is not so much change the flavor, rather what it will do for you is give a nice color to the apples. They do not oxidize and become dark. Once we get to this point, the next thing that we're going to do is add the liquids that ultimately are going to give us the true character of the sauce. These liquids are very important. First and foremost, Worcestershire sauce. Trust me. How many times I've rehearsed this? I do not always get it right, but this time I did. This in itself, it's a good thing. So here we go with that. What this does, it opens up the character of the sauce even further. We're building it up a little bit at a time. I like to have it a little spicy, so I add a little bit of red pepper flakes. This will give it a nice kick, but it will not be too overwhelming. The next thing that we're going to do, you want to deglaze everything with a little bit of whiskey. And careful when you add this because we're dealing with very hot temperature. It could flame up on you, so stir it about gently to make sure that it mixes up with all the ingredients and the aroma of the whiskey itself, which is truly the building block in the sauce, continues, and as it opens up, it gives us a wonderful impression of where we want to go. You say, Nick Stellino, what does it mean, a wonderful impression? Look, two-handed. I have in here apple juice and chicken stock. We're gonna add them at the same time. The combination of these two, as the sauce will reach a boil and then reduces down over a long period of time, will create for us the true bones, which is the sauce is all about. And then we finish it up with a little bit of tomato sauce. People say, Nick, why the tomato sauce? I know that my wife, the first time I put this tomato sauce with apple juice, why? Well, we're going to bring this to a boil. Once the sauce reaches a boil, we're going to reduce this to a simmer. Once it reduces a simmer, we want to let it cook for about 45 to 55 minutes. And the simmer brings down the sauce gently, softly, and it's like a flower that opens up slowly. And finally, when it gets to its finished look, its finished taste, its finished combination of flavor is splendid. Let's deal here with the pork chop. There is something very important that I want you to do with the pork chop. The first thing I want you to notice is that the pork chop here is the way the butcher usually cut unless you ask him anything else. The one next to it has been French, and you know that a pork chop has been French by looking at the bone and noticing how the bone has been rendered, exactly like this. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to tie the pork chop, and let me show you exactly how to do that. So here we put the pork chop. I have some string that I've measured ahead of time. So first I do is I put this string right underneath the bone. Then I lift it up exactly like this, and I bring it around, and then all that you want to do really is to run the string all the way here. Watch what happens to the meat itself once I tie it up. It's going to plump up. Sometimes people don't pay attention and they let it slip underneath, and that's where the mistake is. But as it goes, you see, it already plumps up wonderfully well. Just make a straight knot here. That's all that you need to do, and you are ready to go. I'm going to take this, put it inside this bag, and then we are going to add the marinade. Well, the marinade is very important because pork has an issue. If you overcook pork, it becomes dry very, very quickly. So to this 2 cups of water, we add a little bit of salt and quite a little bit of sugar. Now you want to stir this really well. And to the pork chop awaiting below, we're going to add this marinade. You want to let this sit for at least 45 minutes inside the refrigerator. If you can, it tastes better if you do this overnight. What it will do for you is extremely important. It will bring in onto the pork a great deal of flavor, something that when you cook the pork, there is this amount of tenderness, of juiciness. This will be the juiciest pork chops you have ever had. You'll be totally excited about. Once this finally is done, take the pork chop out of the marinade and make sure with a double layer of paper towel you dry it, and this is what it looks like. At this point, the only thing that I want to do is take it away from the towel, it's exactly like this, and we add the last bit of flavor, which in this particular case will be a little bit of pepper, and be generous with this, a little bit of salt. People say, but why do you do it since we already have it on the inside? You want to have it on the outside as well because that will be the first thing that you interact with, and when the flavor connects to it, it's going to give you exactly the wonderful taste of all these ingredients mingled together. On this burner right here, I've already put in this pan a little bit of extra light olive oil. And I'm making a very big serious point about this because we're going to cook this on very high heat. And if you were to use extra virgin olive oil, one of the problems that you might run into it is that the extra virgin olive oil with cooking with very high heat has the tendency to burn. So there we are. We're almost ready. I'm waiting for this thing to sizzle and giving us, oh, there it is. The temperature is almost right. Let's get our pork chop and let's place it in there. The pork chop has cooked for about 4 minutes on medium heat. Now we turn it, and the next thing is something that you're going to love. It's a process that in French they call arroser. That's the adding of the batter, and as we add the batter, we're going to tilt the batter back into the pan, allowing for the pork chop to pick up this wonderful flavor. Look at this. This batter is going to roll it. We're going to reduce the heat now to medium-low, and we're going to let this braise into this combination of butter and olive oil. By the way, if you make this at home on a barbecue, you can also do it as well. It tastes fantastic, but let's let this finish. I'm going to let this cook all the way through, and when I come back, I'm going to show you exactly how to plate it. The pork chop has cooked perfectly well. Now, what we have done is extremely important. We have taken the string out. Remember to do that. A few times I made the mistake and served my guests with the string attached. It does not taste all that good, and you do not look good in front of your friends. You let it rest for a good 5 minutes. That will redistribute the juices inside the pork chop and make it even much more tender. We are ready to go. In the plate, I have some mashed potatoes. You can even do scalloped potatoes if you want to, some steamed asparagus. And the last bit is the position. This is my favorite design. And now we go with the sauce. Ooh, the sauce is absolutely perfect. What I've done, I have strained the sauce, and then I reduced the sauce a little bit more just to get it. But let's take a taste of this and see if it has exactly the taste that I want. Look at this. I love me. Now, this is the last bit of it. You have to realize that since I was a little boy, this to me was everything that's beautiful about a dish. I was into sauces as a young man, and here you go. All you need is just a little bit. Signori e signores, pork chop with apple and whiskey sauce. Fresh farm eggs in the city. Is this possible? Actually, yes. Here's my friend Bridget, who decided one day to make it happen. Bridget, how did you come up with this idea?
It was so fun. We had a glass of wine one night. My neighbor and I cut a hole in the fence and started building it. So here we go.
Knowing you, I actually believe it. Now, you have 6 chickens in here. How many eggs do you get from 6 chickens?
We normally get 6. They're a year old now, and a couple of them are brooding, so now we're just getting 4.
Brooding, what does that mean?
That's where they take a break from laying, and they take about a month and just go on vacation, and then they come back.
The other thing that I noticed is that you are feeding them actually lettuce, but you also show me that you're feeding them sometime onions, tomatoes.
Vegetable trim, flowers.
Do you feel this flavoring inside the eggs when you have it in the morning?
Yeah, because they're dark and rich, like the eggs in Italy. They're that rich, beautiful orange color, and I miss that from having not been there. So
I have to show you something else. Now, this is built this way for one reason. Why don't we show people?
Yeah,
what
the
you do?
nesting box. So there's one in here now.
Oh, let's not disturb me.
Yeah, and then we've got a couple. These came in. A couple of the chickens lay in the morning, and there are a couple that lay kind of afternoon, mid-afternoon, and a few that lay at night.
And so you just
There's
nice
it.
and
I got a
warm.
basket for you to take with you.
Oh, I'm taking the
Perfect.
basket.
Yeah.
I'm not paying you anything. I'm taking the basket. I'm inviting you over for dinner. Ciao,
Okay,
baby.
ciao.
Upside down pineapple cake. I know it sounds simple, but let me tell you, it's one of my favorite desserts. What I'm making right now is the caramel. I'm melting the batter right on top of the stove. Now I'm going to add the sugar, brown sugar. How much? Plenty of it. The more, the better. This is one thing that you do not want to leave alone on the stove and walk away, because it goes from this consistency to a deep, deep, dark one. It takes you a few minutes, and it's something that you really want to stay with and pay attention. So I'm going to show you the beginning. You can already see what happens. The sugar and the butter will melt together, and eventually we'll make the caramel. But what does it look like? Let me show you. Follow me. I've already done some, and I think you will be very impressed. This is exactly what the caramel consistency is supposed to look like. Here we have it. I've already placed inside the springform pan. Traditionally, it's a cake pan that you want to use, but I find that a springform pan gives me an added advantage. One is that I can unlatch it from the side and makes it a lot easier to unmold. The other thing that I've done to protect against any possible disaster, we have lined the bottom of the pan with parchment paper. So just in case some of this will leak out during the cooking process, they will not burn and will be so much easier to keep your pans in tip-top shape. I just poured this a few moments ago. I'm gonna put it on the side, we'll let it set, and meanwhile, I'll move on and show you exactly how to build the cake. This is very simple, one of the easiest desserts to make. It takes nothing to do it, but you need to pay attention to some of the basic details. First thing we want to do is to get started with the dry ingredients. So we have the flour. Together with the flour, we have, I would say, a small amount of sugar. This definitely is not something for a diet. And then we have baking powder and just a little bit of salt to manage and put all the ingredients together and give it a nice, wonderful balance. First and foremost, as always, what I suggest when I ask people to make this is to mix the dry ingredients. This will really help you with a great deal of things. Next thing we're going to do is to add the wet ingredients. You want to have something like this. I love it because it allows me to move everything about. And as we'll move on in making this, it will be quite thick, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So first we go with the eggs. We take in some eggs and we beat them real well. I want to mix it together gently, but make sure that they're completely well incorporated. Look at the technique that I do. I turn it around, and it gives me an overall ability to see exactly where everything is going. Together with that, we add some melted butter. Unsalted melted butter. This is very important because we already put the salt, and I find that if we were to use salted one, not so much that it would destroy it, but it would take it somewhere else, which might not be exactly where we want to be at. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our milk. And with the milk, be patient. First start with a little bit, mix it through. Now you see why I want the spatula. The spatula gives you complete control. This is the most important part about it. You see I can smash it down, I can pick it up from the side, I can push it back down again. And you can see this gooey, wonderful essence of this, which is coming together. Behind me, the oven is already preheated at 375 degrees. Here we go with the rest of the milk. And I like to add the milk a little bit at a time. This is exactly what you want to do to get the consistency and incorporate it straight into the flow, exactly the way in which we would like to have it. There you are. Trust me, all the work that you do, all the calories that you're extending right now, even